Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where, like watching a snail go towards a determined snail, go towards the finish line, it finally happened. Avatar 2 has marched past the 2 billion mark, unencumbered by any competition. There ain't no hares or any other animals of any kind racing against James Cameron. What the heck, Hollywood? With another 19.6 million domestic and another tinsy tiny drop of just 40%, plus a similar situation overseas with a 38% drop and 53.6 million added, overall, that means Avatar 2 was able to put in another 70 plus million for the weekend alone. Again, not including weekday business. At 2.023 billion, it's still in sixth place, but with yet another weekend to go with no competition, Avatar 2, well, again, we're watching that snail go. Go, baby, go. It's now going to catch up to Avengers Infinity War and The Force Awakens. It's coming to take the fourth spot for the all-time, box office before Universal lands the second punch, which should finally be able to knock Avatar 2 from the top spot where it will have been sitting at that point for 7 weeks. That'll be its 8th week where, I think Megan was solid competition. And I don't even know, to be honest with you. I mean, we're already down to 19.6. Knock at the Cabin should be able to knock down Avatar 2 a peg. But we'll see. Let's see what reviews are like. 7 weeks without any real competition. As we've been saying for many of those weeks, shame on the other studios and shame on exhibitors, as their lack of premium screens is creating a bottleneck in the release schedule. Because each theater's got one Dolby and one IMAX. What if, I'm just thinking outside the box of the theater here, what if there were 2 Dolbys per theater and 2 IMAXs, or at least 2 Dolbys? I mean, some AMC on 42nd Street's got like a Dolby, an IMAX, an AMC Prime, whatever the heck that is. So, there are a couple of huge multiplexes that'll have a couple of premium screens, but still, James Cameron was going around telling everybody that Dolby was the only way to see his movie. So it's not just a premium screen, but a specific premium screen. During the big movie season, it would give so much more freedom to not just studios, but moviegoers to see these movies when they wanted to. Right now, you got to rush in and get in there before the next premium film boots it off in just a week. Again, 2 Dolbys, 2 IMAXs. That should really be the situation at this point. And I think they might be like, what about the rest of the year, Grace? What am I going to do with those giant screens? Put an old movie on it. They're re-releasing Titanic. Re-releases can do pretty good. And they're looking for ways to get people back to the theater. How about that? Stick Back to the Future up there or something. Have fun with it. I think the boffo business that would be done during spring break, summer, and the holiday movie season, and also whenever somebody else, puts out a big movie. Quantumania isn't coming out during, Valentine's Day weekend or around there has become, it's basically, President's Day weekend has become kind of a big release date. Shang-Chi opened for Labor Day. These movie theaters, these premium extra screens would be utilized, and, the slow periods would not be that much. And I think the busy periods would more than make up for it. I mean, can you imagine how wonderful it would be if you had that kind of freedom and there were and also when a big movie hits like Endgame, imagine if, because a lot of you are like, I only want to see it in IMAX and now I have to wait because the tickets sold out immediately. I heard Quantumania tickets for premium theaters went pretty quick. Imagine if you had 2 of each to choose from. It would be just so much better. The demand is clearly there. And I know it's expensive to meet that demand to build these theaters, but do you want to make money or not, man? The longer you wait, the more money you're losing. Just do it. It's like jumping into comic books. You just gotta do it. But while Avatar 2 made easy money this weekend, that doesn't mean others weren't hustling. Like Mr. Tom Hanks. Did you see he joined TikTok? That was adorable. Jennifer Coolidge also joined TikTok, by the way. I think that's very interesting. And Tom Hanks was also a guest on a YouTube food channel, but not Hot Ones, which I also thought was interesting. You don't like spicy food, Hanks? What the heck? That was weird. That was bizarre. Maybe the other channel was like a friend of his family somehow or something. It was weird. Because Hot Ones has become on the, there's a traditional mainstream press circuit for all the shows that you go on, right? You go on the late night shows, you go on some daytime shows, you do maybe a morning show, and you hit Hot Ones these days. That's very cool for YouTube. But not Hanks. Hanks found a different show and also tried to appropriate Tom Cruise's coconut cake. It's like, dude, everyone's like talking. I think Tom Cruise is going to have to find a different cake to send out because, it's getting ridiculous. All right. Or at least I hope he's getting royalties on that cake at this point. Also, though, then, Tom Hanks did trend when he decided that he would insult people who were not wearing masks still because he said they were irresponsible and not nice. And it's like, I'm still advocating for masks, but even I can read the room on this one, Hanks. Even though I'm very pro-mask. And I'm like, I wouldn't tell people that, I wouldn't come down too hard on them, especially because I think that's most of who saw your movie last weekend, Tom Hanks. But even so, I guess a lot of those people aren't on Twitter because all the hustle paid off and A Man Called Otto fell just 30%. They didn't continue. They only do the demographics opening weekend. So I don't know if the audience is still as white as mayonnaise like it was last week. But 30% off is pretty good for the second weekend. That's actually quite good considering, the movie didn't have a lot of heat. Usually something like that would drop off. These aren't amazing numbers, but they're not embarrassing numbers. And in today's movie market, that's important. Now, Universal, though, they're not only not embarrassing themselves, they're out there with style. Wow, Universal, as we always say, the true competitor, I think, to Disney is Universal. They're very good over there. They really know what they're doing. Warner Brothers Discovery is like, whose homework do we want to copy off of? They can't make up their mind. They're like, we're still getting Fs. All right, so anyway, and they're lucky they're not getting kicked out of school. So Puss in Boots 2 fell just 21% in its fifth weekend. It came out just a week after Avatar 2, and it climbed back up to number 2, baby. And it's also still number 1 on digital. I'm so happy for that movie. It's so freaking good. It took some real word of mouth, like what I just did. I'm like, see it. And a lot of people have been tweeting about it too, which is wonderful. But Puss in Boots 2 might end up being another Sing 2 after all, aka successful. And an excellent launch for the return of the Shrek franchise. Shrek 5 has been written. It is coming. It is coming. And I think maybe they didn't announce it yet because the Puss in Boots numbers weren't so good. But now that they're looking pretty good, let's see. But I think maybe after it gets an Oscar nomination on Tuesday for Best Animated Feature, maybe. Right, so this is a great window that's been established for counter-programming that's family-friendly to the blockbusters that have taken over the holiday corridor, right? So this year, 2023, Ghostbusters, the new Ghostbusters movie, is going to take that spot. That's live action, but I think it's trying to do the same thing. And then in 2024, it's going up against Avatar 3, but Sonic the Hedgehog 3, I think is looking to do the same business as Sing 2 and Puss in Boots 2. And I think it can in that window. Because this is a hot date for, I think, particularly animation, but overall family-friendly movies. Jumanji was like a blockbuster and a family-friendly movie, I think, but, it's interesting. You have the big tropical blockbusters that usually come out, and then I think there's space for a family-friendly film that is like a crowd pleaser to go opposite it. Very interesting. And also, all the other studios have no choice but to play in this sandbox or in this release window because Disney has locked down Thanksgiving for their animated movies until the end of time. They will always release an animated movie for Thanksgiving weekend, be it from Disney Animation or sometimes Pixar. And there's Megan right behind Puss, also from Universal. And at the rate it's going, which is solid, another drop in the 40s in its third weekend, and it will come close to 100 million. I think it'll either come close to it or just kiss it, go, mwah, hey, 100 million, how you doing? But, I think that there's a very good chance that it will pop up on digital this Tuesday. I think a very good chance. I think they like to surprise you. Also, they don't want to discourage you from seeing it in the theater until that moment. I kind of like it. I like the surprise of being like, wow, it's available right now. Let's go watch it, or let's go watch it again. I think that's kind of like that's kind of the Universal strategy. I don't maybe know if they should announce it. Disney does because they're sticking it up on Disney Plus anyway at no extra cost. But I think the surprise factor is effective in digital releases, and Universal has been doing that. Again, I was so happy when Puss just showed up, I predicted that Violet Night would, but when Puss came out, I was like, wow, it's out already, and I think everybody had the same reaction. So I think that's interesting. Don't ignore that part of the Universal formula. So then I think when Megan comes out in digital, it will dominate there just as Puss is, just as like they're both still also dominating in theater simultaneously. And that's also interesting, that the very strong digital business is not killing the theatrical. They're coexisting. Kumbaya! Kumbaya! And then again, the next big movie is from Universal, Knock at the Cabin. So Universal, say what you will, their numbers aren't as big as Avatar, but at least they're in there representing the rest of Tinseltown. Sony's Missing that came out this weekend too, and it might have only debuted in 4th place, but if I were Storm Reed's agent, I'd be like, listen to this. It's a major improvement on the debut of the film that it's a kind of a semi-sequel to, Searching, which, by the way, came out in 2018 during a much healthier time in the movie market, which was pre-pandemic, way pre-pandemic. We didn't even know what coronavirus was back then. So that's impressive. That's very impressive. And Storm Reed is the star. That's great for her. She didn't let A Wrinkle in Time end her career before it really started. She still stuck around and she did the work. And she's now the star of a hit. Pretty good audience scores. That B Cinema score, the RT score is great, but the Cinema score is still the best way to determine what an audience thinks of a movie. And a B, not amazing. I would have preferred, if it had a B+, I'd feel a little better. But the demographics are superb. Love those demographics. That's a healthy movie. And Reed, by the way, will also be appearing on The Last of Us in the next few weeks. So she's cooking. She's cooking over there. I'm very impressed. Audiences also continue to tell Hollywood that they made a mistake with Plane and House Party, and that those are movies to watch at home. I think particularly Plane will do very well on streaming. Great movie. But I think people just don't want to pay to see it in theaters. I think Gerard Butler might have broken himself. I think people feel Gerard Butler is for streaming. And that's not so bad. It's good to be known for anything. And because both dropped around 50% in just their second weekends. Those aren't horrible drops, though. Those aren't horrible drops. So they can hold their head high and be like, yeah, we should have gone direct to streaming, or maybe simultaneously. And another outlier House Party, by the way, was actually supposed to be an HBO Max movie. And they're like, no, let's put it in theaters, but with very few of them and no advertising. Why, Warner Brothers Discovery? Why? All right, and another outlier got into the top 10 this week. This week, it was Crunchyroll, back again. They've done this before, this time with a hot anime film out of Japan, which is actually a huge franchise over there with books, manga, anime series, video games, and now a movie. So that's pretty darn good. It's over 1 million. Today, again, nice job. Over on streaming, let's start with Nielsen for the week of Christmas, where finally we had some movement. You might have noticed that the graphics are a little different for Nielsen. I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know if their site's broken or if they're limiting who can look at it, but they're still distributing these graphics to the trades, so I just yoinked them from there. But it's weird that suddenly their site is not working. Just say you're not going to release it to the public. Because I don't know. Nielsen's weird. But they're all we got. On the overall chart, Glass Onion dominated, thankfully, considering how much Netflix paid for it. Remember, like $450 million for 2 more movies. But interestingly, Amazon's Jack Ryan, which I'm sure was less expensive, which debuted as season 3 here, wasn't too far behind. Woohoo! Amazon has a steady flow of military theme-ish, like their military-ish, red statey shows. You know what I'm talking about. Shows and movies, kind of, but more shows. And, it's working for him. All hits. And then on the original shows chart, Jack Ryan here is number 1, strong number 1, dethroning Wednesday. Although I have to say, as I've said before, Wednesday is actually a surprisingly wholesome show, which I think is part of the reason it succeeded. It's like a Rorschach test. You see what you want to see. To some people, it's edgy, and to some people, it's very wholesome. And Peacock got on here. Look at that. Oh, my goodness. Anything can happen. With The Best Man, the final chapters. That's great for that show. Peacock's probably like, what do you guys want? What do you want for these not to be the final chapters? Or do you want to tell a different story? And then speaking of Glass Onion, I'll be curious to see if Peacock can get another show on here with Poker Face, debuting this coming week. Another whodunit from Rian Johnson and starring Natasha Lyonne. That's why she had that small cameo in Glass Onion. By the way, Poker Face, I'm not sure if I'm going to review it, so I will say here, it's a little bit like Columbo. And each episode, there's like an overarching story, but they're almost standalones. And I got a little old by the time I got to episode 6. They gave us 6 in advance. But I'd say through 4, I thought the show was like the best thing I ever watched. I was like, it's as good as Columbo. Oh my God. The first episode's killer. I think it could trend. I hope this show does well. And it's amazing for Peacock. Amazing. And then the Santa Clauses, even after wrapping up its season, because it's still Christmas Here, as you can see, still managed to make the top 10, but no Willow or National Treasure. I don't think those shows are ever getting into the top 10. Never say never, though. Maybe when it's real slow when we catch up to January. And then on the acquired shows chart, while Yellowstone and The White Lotus fell off the overall chart, they're still showing up in their own division, again, acquired. And this is 2 weeks now after The White Lotus wrapped its second round, and it's still up here. So that's very impressive. I'm very happy for that show. That means word of mouth is incredible, and its audience is growing. It should be pretty powerful by the time the third round. We can't call it a season by the time the third round comes around. And then, as one of you pointed out to me, the new season of Yellowstone doesn't even air on Peacock. So this is just people catching up so they can watch the new season or revisiting past seasons. So that makes that even more impressive. And again, in both these cases, because this is acquired, this is not their full audience. With movies on the movie chart, Glass Onion has more than double the viewing of runner-up movie Home Alone on Disney+. Remember, the week of Christmas here. And you can see that reflected in the rest of the chart, where the only other recent releases, the rest are traditional Christmas movies, but you've got a volcano documentary from Netflix on here. I gotta say, Netflix does great documentaries. I watched The Good Nurse this weekend, which I actually really liked. And then some of you said, oh, the documentary is even better, called Killer Nurse. And so I started that, and I was like, it is better. I loved it. I was like, there's so much detail and minutia that they left out of the movie. I did like the movie, though. I recommend the movie. I actually, as I tweeted, strong recommend. And it was beautiful from a business perspective because it was so cheap to make. They needed so few sets to make that. And hospital sets are pretty easy to come by. You don't even need the whole hospital. You just needed like a small little emergency room wing. It was, from a business perspective, like, you should watch that as a producer, too, and think about how beautifully, because it doesn't feel small, but you can tell it was so cheap to make. So I'm impressed. But anyway, Netflix, so they have that new recent release. And then Strange World, as you might recall, went, because it did so poorly in theaters, it hit Disney Plus in time for Christmas, and it debuted at number 8. Wow, with a fifth of Glass Onion's viewership. That's a very low number. It did not do well anywhere. On Netflix, for just last week, here we see that Glass Onion, after 2 solid weeks, is now in third place with not a great number. So it burned brightish and fast. It hasn't been an awards juggernaut either. I'm surprised because it's such a great movie. I loved it so much. It's weird. I think that releasing it early kind of broke it. I think they should not do that again. I don't think that was a good idea. But anyway, the Oscar nominations are on Tuesday, so we'll see if maybe it does a little bit better there. Otherwise, it's gotten some best ensembles and stuff like that, but it's not really getting a lot of attention. Christian Bale's The Pale Blue Eye is a week number 1. In its second week, it went up a spot, while Rob Lowe's Doggone debuted in 4th place. The numbers across the board here are not great. The TV side isn't on fire either. It's January. But at least a season 3 of Ginny and Georgia seems secure. I don't know about Vikings Valhalla, though, as season 2 debuted in just 4th place. It brought up season 1 up there, but that's not great. Why pay for that show? And on iTunes, Universal again has the top 2 spots, just like they did last week, and the top 10 is all recent releases, including another pretty much direct-to-digital movie reflecting the sad state of Mel Gibson's career these days. I don't know how he's going to do Passion of the Christ 2. I think he's too much of a liability. But I still remember how amazing it was seeing that movie when it came out. It was like going to church. My theater just erupted when Jesus was resurrected. I do wonder how he's going to, let's see. I really liked, since Mel Gibson isn't in the movie, that Andrew Garfield movie he did was excellent and very well received. So maybe he can make it work. I am curious what he's going to do for a sequel. I think Jesus is supposed to be escaping from hell and stuff. He talked about it a while ago. It was nuts. But that's Mel Gibson's forte. All right, so one more weekend of Avatar supremacy. Oh my gosh, it's getting old already. It already made $2 billion. Let's move on to the next thing. We'll see if Infinity Pool can make a dent, with indie horror darling Mia Goth landing her most impressive leading man yet, Alexander Skarsgård. Although this reminds me that Alexander Skarsgård also likes to make weird stuff. So I bet you that movie is super weird. You've been warned. Some of you might be like, sign me up. And to that I say, have fun. Billie Eilish is also sending an extended cut of her recent concert to a few theaters. But some major and that's going to take a few premium screens, but I think just on Friday. In case you want to catch Avatar, this is the last call. The last call. This is it. We're ringing the dinner bell. All right, but come on in. But some major movies hit streaming. There are actually some huge movies on streaming this weekend, which is weird, because why aren't they in theaters? So Teen Wolf returns as a movie, but on Paramount Plus on Thursday, while on Friday, Jennifer Lopez's Shotgun Wedding is going straight to Prime Video. How embarrassing. Wow. And she thought that she was blowing up with her, her recent marriage and starting her own newsletter. I can't believe she started a newsletter. But anyway, she thought her spot was blowing up, and here she is having her new movie sent directly to Prime Video. Like Marry Me went directly to Peacock, but that was like during the pandemic, kind of. But now we're like pretty much out of the pandemic, and her movie's still going to Prime Video. It must be really bad. Jennifer Coolidge is in that. That's why she went on TikTok. Also because she's winning all these awards. But anyway, I don't want to ruin that TikTok video for you if you haven't seen it. All right, so anyway. And then Kenya Barris is sure to get Twitter going with his Spicy You People, which he co-wrote with Jonah Hill, which is chock full of talent. We've got Eddie Murphy, Nia Long, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, David Duchovny, and hot takes on race and religion. I'm very curious to see how this performs. Then for shows, Hulu has How I Met Your Father Season 2 starting Tuesday and Superhero Comedy Extraordinary on Wednesday. While again, Poker Face starts on Peacock on Thursday, dropping the first 4 episodes, 4 of them. Also on Thursday, to coincide with that Teen Wolf movie, Paramount Plus has new series Wolfpack, headlined by none other than Sarah Michelle Gellar. Finally, on Friday, Netflix has a supernatural teen show called Lockwood and Company, while Apple TV has landed Harrison Ford, which is particularly funny if you saw the recent Timothée Chalamet commercial for Apple TV. I tweeted that out. So funny. But it's a little less impressive because Harrison Ford also just joined Yellowstone. So he wants paychecks. He joined the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's like eating up cash like Sonic eats up gold coins. But here he's playing a psychiatrist, helping another psychiatrist played by Jason Segel. And this show, basically, Jason Segel's actually the star of this show, and it looks like every other thing Jason Segel's ever done. And you know what? There's a market for that. I could see people watching that. I don't know if I'm one of them, but I don't know. I might get desperate enough this weekend. All right, so that's this week's, they canceled Mosquito Coast. All right, I just finished it. All right, so that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And what do you think of the entertainment world right now in the shadow of Avatar 2? Share those thoughts down below. See you later tonight for The Last of Us Episode 2. My breakdown's ready to go. 10 p.m. it drops Eastern Standard Time. Subscribe today so you don't miss that. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.